Hey, witches, grab a weapon, grab a goat, grab a drink, because it is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Yes, indeed. Every Wednesday, right here, right now, you get witches talking about witches in movies. You may or may not recognize me. I am one of your hosts, Patty Negri. You might know me from The Witching Hour or Ghost Adventures or Bathroom Malls across America. But let me pass this on to some of my beautiful co hosts, starting with Courtney.
That's me. I'm Courtney Buckley, Ghost Bait on Scared and Alone. And I'm very excited both to have Patty back, and if that's who that is, and to have Thumper joining us, and to look Jason in his eyes as I hex him. So, and
We've
Richard
start.
Will, of course, being back. But I don't wish hexes upon Richard Will, obviously.
Obviously. Well, thank you very much and welcome. Speaking of Richard Layell, Richard Layell.
I am Richard Layell. Richard Layell is one name, not two. If I were Richard, I would be a. That's right. Thank you. I am known as the Gentleman Psychic. I am here in New Orleans, so you can come and get readings. thegentlemanpsychic.com. I'm really easy to find.
Very good. Thank you.
That's about it.
That was it? Okay. Our beautiful golden locked Jason.
I'm Jason, soon to be hexed Llewellyn author. This is my latest book, High Priest, a biography of Raymond Buckland. I think we're in for a really great night, Coven, just because Courtney started early picking on me.
You didn't see me.
Recognize her.
I did.
Notice she was right in front of you.
Right.
Can't
That's
see you.
insulting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you and welcome. And yes, and last and never least, our regular special guest, Thumper.
Hello, I am Thumper. I am playing the part of Heather Green tonight, who is the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, a critical history of witchcraft in American film and television. And when I'm not pretending to be Heather, I am also an author for Llewellyn and the author of the upcoming Chaos Apple, Magic and Discordianism for the Postmodern Witch.
Beautiful. Thank you. And since everybody is picking up books, this has been out for 1 month now. And I believe
Yay!
really well for 1 month. If you like haunted dolls or magical puppets, also with Llewellyn. We have a theme here. Yes, indeed, we do. So our movie this week, it is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. 2014, I do believe. Is that correct? And it was my first time watching it. And hopefully you guys all watched it in the storm, perhaps. But just in case one of you didn't get this movie or watch this movie, Richard Layell, do you have an unbiased synopsis of this fine film?
I do have an unbiased synopsis of this film. This one is pretty straightforward, I'm going to say. Some cops are called to a murder, unaliving, self-unaliving, and in the process, they find a woman buried in the cellar. And she doesn't have any ID, and she is brought to the local morgue. And upon going through the autopsy, the mortician and his son, Gomez, Gomez and Mortician end up by Gomez and Mortician, through the process of elimination, discover that this young woman has been brutalized, and yet her body still seems fresh. And along the way, there's a lot of boobs and ass. Boobs and butts. Butts. There's a lot of boobs. Of course, they are cold, dead hands and boobs and butts. Anyway, as it turns out, they find that there's a lot of strange things that start happening, and as they get closer and closer in, they find that there are markings and an ancient old cloth from the 17th century that has markings from the Bible. Leviticus 23, suffer not a witch to live, and something about desecrating bodies and whatever it may be. As it turns out, they find, much too late, that her brain is still alive and has been alive since 1693. She was a witch in Salem. was accused rather of witchcraft in Salem, and yet these Puritans, in their zeal to ouster a witch, actually cursed this woman to become the devil they feared. And so she feels all of this pain, and they've tried to kill her, tried to kill her, tried to kill her, and yet her body is alive. And so she, through the power of cinema magic, she enacts the same sort of pain that everyone else that they have inflicted upon her. And then, of course, in the end, it's a happy ending. Everyone is dead. And then the girl is taken off to another county, another morgue, because the sheriff does not want to deal with it in this county anymore. So that's kind of it. The end. Dead girl, witch, 1693, now in Virginia. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you for that detailed description. It's beautiful. Now, we do not have Heather, but we are thrilled to hear that Thumper did the next 5 things that we need to know about this film. Thumper, the stage is yours.
Yay! So the Autopsy of Jane Doe came out either, you said 2014, maybe 2016. I wrote down the wrong date. But it was directed by Andre Ervedal, who he is best known for writing and directing a foreign film called Troll Hunter. And he also directed Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Troll Hunter was very well received, but he wanted to prove that he could direct something other than found footage. He was very inspired by The Conjuring, and he wanted to direct something like that. And he was able to get a hold of the script for The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which he got off of what's called the Blacklist. And the Blacklist is an annual survey of screenplays that are considered to be very good, but are just waiting to be produced. Nobody has done anything with them yet. So he was able to get a hold of it that way. For a very small cast, there were some pretty big names. Brian Cox plays Tommy, the mortician.
And I do love Cox.
We all do. We all do.
Yeah.
Well, Jason when there's whiskey, but the rest of us, yeah.
We did have a nice time in Austin earlier this year. That's for sure.
But Brian Cox, is a classically trained, Academy Award-winning Shakespearean actor. He's mostly known as a character actor, but he played Hannibal in the first Red Dragon, or Manhunter. He was in Super Trooper. He's just been in a ton of stuff. He was in X2. He was in Succession. The character was supposed to be played by Martin Sheen, but he dropped out at the last minute. And they brought in Brian Cox. His son, Austin, was played by Emil Hirsch, who was also an Academy Award nominee. He was nominated for a movie called Into the Wild. And the body was actually not a prop. It was an actress. There was some prosthesis used, but it was an actress named Olwen Kelly, who was the first person to audition for the role. And they picked her because she had a background in yoga, so she was able to control her body and breathing and do these long takes without moving. So I do appreciate that they actually threw somebody on the slab, and she did a really good job. The movie came out at a time... Huh?
Come up to the lab and see what's on the slab.
I see you shiver with anticipation. So the movie came out in 2016, and it was during what was sort of a resurgence of witch and pagan themed folk horror movies. This was very much the good for her era. So these were movies that really focused on feminism and vengeance. So The Witch came out during this time. The who? Where? When? Patient. The Witch came out around this time. Suspiria came out around this time, the remake. The Love Witch came out. A movie, an Irish found footage film called Cronewood, which is phenomenal.
Add that to the list.
That one's really good. And but they all sort of had this kind of girl power vengeance theme. Men in these movies tended to be portrayed as kind of chauvinistic and kind of members of the boys club. They could be very potentially dangerous or violent, but they were also depicted as helpless and unable to protect the women in their lives. And we really see this in the Autopsy of Jane Doe, where Tommy is mourning the death of his wife, who he couldn't save, and then he had to kill her cat, and that was the last thing he had of hers, and he couldn't save the cat. Um, Austin ditches his girlfriend Emma to work with his dad, and then of course the dad, in a moment of panic, kills the girlfriend on accident. And then at the end, you have Tommy has taken on the curse, and his body is going through all the things that happened to the witch on the table, and the last thing to do is cut his tongue out. And Austin, mistaking what was going on, decided to end his dad's suffering and stabbed him, and Mercy killed him, which prevented the curse from being lifted and resulted in both of them dying. So throughout the film, we have this constant theme of the men are sticking together, but they're not doing anything to protect the women, and the women have to kind of save themselves. It brought in about $6 million in the box office, so it was not considered a success. Critics praised the acting. They did not like the ending, mainly because I assume the critics didn't like that the men were unable to defeat the bad witch, which critics react badly to these things like that. The subgenre itself is kind of in question because it's very much a supernatural film, but it's actually categorized as a zombie film. And Rotten Tomatoes actually listed it as one of the top 100 zombie movies of all time, which I thought was kind of interesting. But what really jumped out at me, and what I ended up doing a deep dive on, was what was found in the witch's stomach, which was Jimson weed. And Jimson weed is better known as Datura. It is a toxic plant. It is hallucinogenic and a deliriant, which sounds fun but isn't. And it has medicinal properties. It can treat gout. People are using it now to treat gout. But in European witchcraft, Datura was one of the key ingredients of the traditional flying ointments. So it has a tie to witchcraft. And it's also in Haiti. It is known as zombie cucumber because it is one of the ingredients used in the process of turning somebody into what we would call a zombie. And what most significantly, in the colonial northeastern United States, Jimson weed or Datura was considered unlucky, and it was inappropriate to have it growing around your home because to the people in New England during that time, during colonial times, it was very much still associated with witchcraft and was considered to have magical properties. So anyone who had Datura around them would have been considered a witch. So, who? How? But yeah, so it just with everything else going on, I thought that was really cool that they took a moment to find something that would have been a poison, but also would have been literally a taste of the witch's own medicine. So those are 5 things you need to know.
Thank you. That was
Thank you. I had fun doing that.
That was excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Yes. Does anybody want to start specifically talking about this film? Courtney, how about you?
All right. I'm not going to share my opinion of this film, but I would like to discuss what everybody I'm sure is expecting me to talk about, the Salem part of
Yes.
this movie. Okay. So first of all, I'm fully aware that the Salem witch trials did continue into 1693, but when we are using this symbolically in the movie, to not use 1692 makes my eyes feel like they're going to fall out of my head. Because especially when you pair it with incorrect information, it makes me want to strangle somebody. So, for example, he would, I almost let go the burned lungs and the talking about, because they included hanging. She wasn't hanged, she wasn't burned at the stake, she wasn't whatever is something that he said. And I almost let go of the burning because, as we all know, and I've said before, and I'll say 100,000 more times, no one was burned in Salem. But then he started talking about the girls being like, let me see if I think I took the quote down or wrote about the quote. He was talking about the girls or saying something about the young girls that were like accused and whatever, blah blah, and they weren't. The young girls did the accusing. So he flipped the whole story around and added burning and said 1693. So it was like, it almost took me directly out of the movie. As a horror movie, it was interesting to watch until that point. Like I even like the concept, if you're gonna do the Salem bit, like do the Salem bit, but do it right. So that's the thought that I had to get out immediately, or else I would explode.
Okay, thank you for that. Then I will go to just the part that everybody expects me to say. They didn't have to kill the damn cat.
I know.
Every movie we watch have to have animal cruelty within it. The film would have been just fine without having to break the kitty's neck, burn the kitty up, have monsters eat the kitty, and I'll just leave it at that. But I must say, our beautiful producer Rob warned me just before I was going to watch it. He said that you're not going to like this, and I didn't. I hid my eyes throughout most of it, but and I know this is a big enough budget film. Nobody really hurt the cat, but I don't need to see it. I just don't need to see it. That's all I have to say on that matter. Me and
Well
Phil.
said.
Jason, what's your thoughts?
Well, I watched this with my wife on Monday, and she works in a laboratory. So she felt kind of close to the movie and perhaps a little bit more frightened than me because she's not a mortician though, but she works in a setting that, the movie that was familiar to her. And to me, I mean, I'm not a mortician, I don't work in a lab. I always find horror movies less scary when they're in places that I would not go because I would never be a mortician because I don't want to be around the dead like that. Just feels like an invitation to a bad evening like these fellows had. Right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to pass. I need my horror to be somewhere that I can be. So I'm not going to say like what my final
Lisa.
opinion of the movie, but I was not frightened while watching the movie because of the setting of the film.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've got things. I got standards and things.
On the
Wow.
opposite, I though I did do some nursing and medical stuff in my youth, I've never been a lab person, but I'm always frightened by medical surgical tables, equipment, whether morgue or hospital or operating room. It doesn't have to be something I would work in. To me, that's just a natural place that horror and things could happen.
I went through a phase where it wasn't even really a phase. I would have done it. I just didn't have the money or the time. But when Nathan was very little and I was trying to decide what came next for me, that I researched becoming a mortician. And I didn't want to be part of I didn't want to be like the funeral director. I wanted to be the person who worked with the bodies, because to me, it's like, I felt like I could do that and sleep at night, but also it's like the last nice thing that you can do for someone. Like you're there to care for them when nobody else is there to care for them. And I think that I would be the right kind of person to do that. Having said that, I scared my local librarians immensely because of all the books that I ordered about being a mortician, and read rapid fire. So every time I came in, they looked a little shell shocked. But I think there's something like, I shouldn't admit to this live, but when I was young and naive, prior to Scared and Alone, where we do things legit, when I was a teenage rascal and used to go places I shouldn't have been at times I shouldn't have been there, the morgue was always the place we tried to find because we wanted to see it. I mean, there's something that draws or drew us to it. And again, it's like that's, I don't know. There's something to it that is just the perfect setting for this to be like scary enough.
It's a very good claustrophobic setting.
Yeah.
Right? Because you do feel trapped in with the people in the film because there's really nowhere for them to go. And then they get rid of all the exits. So there really is nowhere for them to go. You know what they say in TV? It's a bottle episode, right? Where you don't have a lot of sets. You're only using one. This is like a bottle movie because you're really stuck in the same place.
That's what got to me because I'm not necessarily claustrophobic, but I am what's called claustrophobic, which is fear of being restrained or contained. And so when they got stuck in the elevator, I was just like, oh, I can't do that. But just the fact that there was no way out and that it was underground to begin with long hallways and no windows, and that to me is, the morgue itself was not particularly chilling, but like the long hallway to get there and the creaky old elevator,
Mhm.
those are things that in real life would give me a panic attack.
I have some experience, actually, not
Oh.
as a mortician, maybe as a Gomez. I do have some experience, though. I worked in a nursing home for a little while, and so that was familiar, and there is a lot of death. Then, of course, a friend of mine in Ohio, his family owns an old funeral home. It's no longer in service. It was, the house was built in the 1870s, and now, for the last 20 years, it's not been in service. But I was invited on a tour of this house, a beautiful old house. And I was there with my friend, and we heard banging from downstairs. And I said, "Wait, did you hear that? There's someone downstairs." And he went, "No, I did hear it, but no, there's no one here. No, there can't be." And I went, "No, there's someone downstairs." He was like, "Well, I'm going to run out." I went, "Or we could actually just go downstairs and see who's down there, because why not?" So we actually did go down into what was the former morgue, of this funeral home, and it is underground. It is in the old basement, the old cellar, and there are long corridors and little rooms. And it's this one in the film was exponentially larger than the one that is under the house that my friend's family owns. So I do get that claustrophobia. I do get that sort of. And as far as being there, yeah, I would be there. I have been there. It's incredibly claustrophobic. It's incredibly overwhelming, actually.
Yeah.
Plus, they made so much. I loved just the whole atmosphere they created. Great, whether that's art direction or the direction, the coloring of everything, the blandness of everything, and that played into it perfectly for me.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that the sets for this movie were perfect. I think I liked the hallway with the bend in it that they had to see through the mirror to see around. There was just so many opportunities for scares that didn't feel forced because of the scenery for me, and also keeping with the aesthetic. So in the beginning, the dad said he was a traditionalist, and it's all like there's a chalkboard instead of like anything else. So it's just, I don't know exactly when the movie was set. I don't really need to know, but it's more modern than using a chalkboard. But it all felt like that same vibe. Like even the crematorium that they used looked old. Everything looked old. That think about like how much character that has. All of those things. All of through generations of them running this business, how many souls have crossed through there. So to me, that sets the stage beautifully.
Yeah.
I think I loved the setting of it.
I thought the set was really good, and I think that really ties into. I don't know, when I mentioned Troll Hunter earlier, I don't know if any of y'all have ever seen it. It's a really good Norwegian film that's very found footage about a giant troll that just sort of wakes up in Norway one day and goes on a rampage. And it's a lot of fun. It's like it's some horror, more action, and there were like poignant troll moments in it. But the director really did want to prove that he could do something else. And so with things like, with all those little details in the set, I think that was really him, like really going the distance because of the movies that he was inspired by, and he didn't want to like remake The Conjuring. He wanted something that could be held up to The Conjuring and say, this is in the same genre. And so that attention to detail really, really paid off.
And there's a lot of love for this movie online. When I'm scrolling through TikTok or wherever it is, and people are talking about their favorite scary movies or the movies that scared them the most, this is always on the list. And, it's hard for me to decide how I feel about it because the Salem stuff takes me right out. But at the same time, it's things like the body laying perfectly still in whatever position they've left her while the whole world is exploding around them, but she's just not moving. Like that juxtaposition is beautiful to watch. It's so scary. It's scary. It is scary. It's creepy. The jump scares get me. The Tubi ads got me every time. I mean,
I think also for me on the Salem thing, I actually didn't mind it as bad as I know historically she wasn't hanged, she wasn't but she was all of these things. My thought was that it happened. There's Heather's. I didn't mind it. I felt like that if she's all of these hundreds of years old, that people have tried to burn her. They have tried to hang her. They even after death, they've tried to do these things because they have found that they've put so much hatred on this being that really is helpless. It's really she's as much a victim as anybody else.
Yeah.
See, I agree with that entirely, and I think, like I said, the story is. I wish that they had done it. It's more so the facts that they gave about Salem that were just wrong.
I can see
and
that.
if they're gonna do it, if she's gonna be a Salem witch, he did make the claim that there were no witches, they were innocent. That would have still fit the theme, but you could have gotten the facts right.
Yeah.
I always find Salem lazy though. Like, does it always have to be Salem? Like, how many? Everything starts in Salem. Like, every movie we talk to always goes back to Salem. There were other witch trials in the United States, not as big as Salem. I don't think there was anything that really compared to Salem, but it would be interesting to see other areas spotlighted, or you could make up your own. I don't think that Salem and witch always have to go together. And as I said, it just always feels lazy to me. Oh yeah, got witch in the movie. Better make sure they're from Salem,
Right.
I mean, and
I
really,
agree.
right, it could have been Roanoke. It could have been New Orleans. There weren't really witch trials in New Orleans, but it could have been New Orleans.
But Roanoke could have been her fault in some way. Like they could have made up that story. My eyeballs would have been like SpongeBob with the this. Like I would not have been able to stop watching if that were the case. It's you're right, Jason. It's lazy. It is
also
lazy.
Wouldn't there be a history of this corpse starting things? We're 300 years in since Salem at this point,
and she's clearly still been causing.
Yeah.
Well, that was some. Oh, we're also. That was, but something that it didn't strike me until later in the film is that she was brought in because she was found at the site of an unexplained multiple murder.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there were 3 other bodies, and she just happened to have been uncovered in the midst of it. And then as at the very end when she's driving off, and this scene I really loved where her toe was sticking out, and then the bell rang when it twitched.
Yeah.
I love that moment. But she's been killing. She killed the people in the house before they found her. She's going to kill the guy in the ambulance. So that would have been interesting to. Hey, I think we have the body that has been mysteriously killing people in folklore for the past 300 years.
Right.
That's why I didn't think that all that stuff had been done in Salem, the burn inside. How would they even burn inside of her lungs and stuff? I thought that was done over. Though I was not quite clear how she popped up then. Like, they were digging a pool, and then she came up, and then she killed the family.
Well, I would think so, because if they were digging, if they were even excavating under their house, and they had gotten with the machinery, anything that happens to her body has to happen to you, because she's very much alive. She feels the pain. And then even though she's not a witch, through the power of Whatcraft, she makes it happen to the people that have perpetuated that upon her.
And it did look like they were working in the basement, because when the cops went down into the basement, there was plastic sheeting everywhere with blood on it. So that was not cop plastic sheeting. That was probably construction plastic sheeting. And at one point, when the sheriff first walked in the house, they said there was no sign of forced entry outside. It looked like everyone inside was trying to get out. So, like, that's definitely, was definitely
She trapped them the
uncovered.
same way that she trapped the people in the morgue.
Yes, yeah.
And that was the people in Salem had tried to remove her as far from the village as they could. So
Right.
every person who would find this dead girl, obviously, there's a lot of necrophiliacs, because a lot of people are messing with, instead of just being like, oh, she's clearly, there's a dead woman and we don't mess with that, we're just going to bury her in the ground. Like, everyone has messed with her for 300 years.
There is a little bit of precedence for that. You know, there's lots of kind of throughout, especially in European folklore, of, you know, oh no, there's a plague in the village, somebody must be a witch, let's dig her up and turn her upside down. And like there was a whole thing about like you have to bury people face down, so if they are a witch they'll go to hell instead of rise up. And there was a lot, or especially with in vampire folklore mythology, there's lots of dig people up and desecrate the body. So that could have been what has been happening to her all these years.
And that did happen here in New England also. There's a in Rhode Island, Mercy, I can't remember, I'll look it up, but she died of consumption, and there's a whole story behind it, and I've been to her grave too. And like that's exactly what they all did, you know. And so like I feel like all of that is plausible to me within the tone of the story. Saying 1693 when you're just lazily using Salem is not, and then saying that the young girls were the victims when they were the cause of it is also wrong when you're telling the story.
Were there no young girl victims? Were there no young girl victims?
They were mostly older women, also older men. There were young girl victims, or a young girl victim, but it was like by proxy, not because they were being accused and tortured and all that. Like there were people being tortured, that was happening, but they weren't like these poor innocent young girls who, oh, poor them, there weren't really witches. It was people who had lived lives and had families, and you know, so if you're going to call anyone innocent, it should be the people who were innocent. And that's my soapbox. I can't climb down from it.
It's a really good soapbox.
I can't climb down from it. So if you were going to go for the lazy route, like Jason said, if you're going to go lazy with the Salem witch trials, commit to it and get that fact. Like, don't mistell it.
I don't know that I would call it lazy as much as I think the crucible is so burned into, especially writers and artists' head, that there's an assumption that it has to start there. That it's not. I don't think it's, and it would be lazy in terms of not trying to think outside of the box, but I think in terms of trying to do something with historical accuracy, knowing how inaccurate this one was, I think people are like, but it has to start there. That's where it all started, when it really wasn't.
Right, but it's also,
and we know that.
If you're going to make a quick reference to something and want people to understand what you're talking about, yes, everyone does associate Salem with that. Like, there's no getting around that. So I get that too, but just don't tell lies. Just tell the truth.
You know what they could do if they ever wanted a sequel, though? They could be like a Jane Doe Weekend at Bernie's team up, where the bodies are just like kind of washing up in various places.
Love
like,
that.
You would pay good money to watch that. I mean, clearly, by Richard Lale's reaction, I know he would pay good money to watch that. Also, hello, Heather.
Hi, Heather. We miss you. We love
Hello.
you.
That actually happened, Jason, in a HBO series called Harlots, where it takes place in I want to say the 1700s, with rival houses of the night, and the ladies who inhabit these houses.
What?
It's an amazing series. Or in the first season, there's sort of a running gag where one of the women has passed away of consumption, or syphilis, but something like that. And that both houses sort of blame the other for her death, so they just keep leaving the body in various places for the other houses to find.
Oh my
And
God.
it does get a bit Weekend at Bernie's, and I think you would appreciate that.
Yeah,
It was one of, it should not have been anywhere near as funny as it was, but they did a really good job of like committing to the bit and making the dead harlot very, very funny.
This one, I love that. This one, it was scary to me. I got scared. I
See,
went out of there. That the first time one of the little refrigerator doors opened up
Oh
with
yeah.
the body, and the radio's messing up, and the song came on. I bought into all of it for horror.
As
Yeah,
a former
I've-
Christian. Oh, go ahead.
well, I just had something quick to add. I feel. Oh, also, I have something else quick to add. This is the true telling of the Salem witch trials. So if you want a factual documentary, watch this movie, Love at Stake. We covered that already. But what I was gonna say is, I think part of why it's so scary to me is my favorite horror video game to play is Mortuary Assistant, where you are literally, you work in a mortuary and you have to embalm bodies as they become more and more possessed by demons, and you become more and more possessed by demons. And so you start seeing things around you, and then you have to figure out which body of the three is possessed by a demon, and then figure out what the demon is and burn it and banish the demon. And so it's terrifying, and I scream and I pee my pants, and it's horrifying. So I think that this is like the live action version of that for me. So it's even scarier.
Yeah. I didn't know it was a witch movie because I did not know anything about this film, and I wasn't sure why we were watching it. I just thought it was a ghost story. So while unnerved by the claustrophobic set, I was also like, "Oh, Jimson weed! It's a witch! Neat!" Like that was a fun little Easter egg for me in her stomach.
Watching it with my wife, we didn't know it was a witch movie either for a while. We thought maybe that the Jane Doe was something else. I, at one point, said, I think she's like Fae or something.
Yeah.
Because I didn't figure out the corset part because it made her body look unnatural, right? And then her eyes were so piercing and so different in that state. But I guess that's something that happens when you die. But I don't know all of that. So I was trying to find like a more supernatural kind of origin for our Jane Doe.
Yeah.
As a former Christian, if I were to be listening to the radio, A, that would be weird because I don't. And two, if it were to switch to Mommy told me something, I have trauma from that song. I mean, real trauma. The first time that would have come on, I would have been out. I would have been done. I would have washed my hands. I would have been done. But
It is. Oh, that song has been stuck in my head for 2 days. First
the
of all,
power of Christ compels me.
it is a horrid song about I've learned to hate, let the sunshine in. And also you need to start literally everything you say with, as a former Christian, I don't care what it is, just please start everything with that. That would warm my heart.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about?
Well, I would like to talk a little bit about some of the witchcraft aspect of it,
Yes.
so the actual spells. We talked a little bit about the gypsum weed, but I did like some of the sort of the talismans. They ripped her tooth out, they wrapped it in the cloth, and it had Bible verses on it. Leviticus 22, I think is what it was. Suffer not a witch to live. I thought that was really powerful. It takes a lot of, there's a lot there. It shapes you. When you are, this is how you grow up. And as a former Christian, did that for you, Thumper. When you grow up with this, it's normal. It's normal. It's perfectly normal. They claim that they are monotheistic, and then the devil has all of this power that even can take God's chosen. I grew up in that faith, in that sort of style of religion. It's incredibly oppressive. So I think if you put enough energy into something, you actually do create. As a former Christian, the the Bible says, what I have feared has come upon me. And so I think that there is some truth to that. If you really, really fear something, you are giving it so much power, and it feeds. And then it's sort of like the Annabelle doll. Is Annabelle, she was just a little doll. She's just a doll. But so many people have put so much fear and so much anxiety into that little being that now, is she haunted? Yes, she's haunted.
Yeah.
So
As a former Christian, do you know what that verse from Leviticus originally said?
I can't remember. Leviticus.
It was supposed in the original Hebrew, or I guess Aramaic before Hebrew. It said, "Thou shalt not suffer a poisoner to live," because that particular passage was all about poisoning.
Right.
King James changed it to witch during a Protestant phase.
Because he was afraid, because he was, by the way, he was a closet homosexual.
He also liked Brian Cox, yeah.
Yep.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And in his marriage, there were storms at sea, and the boat, his marriage boat, nearly sank, and he obviously thought it was about witches. So it did become much more political, of suffer not a witch to live. And then that goes into Leviticus 18:22, which of course, man shall not lie with mankind like he lieth with a woman. It's an abomination. And I'm going to tell you a little story. As a former Christian, every time I go into a hotel and there is a Gideon's Bible right next, I open it up to Leviticus 18:22, and I rip the page out and I put it in the toilet every single time.
Well
so if you're in a hotel room and you open it up to Leviticus 18:22 and it isn't there, it's because I flushed it down the toilet.
Well done.
As it should be.
I can say that when in 2018, I competed at International Mr. Leather, and we all had to stay in a host hotel, and we did a bunch of like rehearsals and stuff. And one morning, we were all sitting around in an atrium in the hotel, and one of the judges was talking about, last year my daughter opened up the Bible in our room, and a baggie of drugs fell out of the Bible, and everybody went, "Oh wow, that's awful." And then this kind of big grizzly guy, who was another one of the competitors, pointed at me and said, "I spanked him with the Bible last night." And like everything just kind of screeched to a halt. There was the record scratch, and all these people turned to look at me, and I was like, "Yeah, he did." He did.
I love it. Yeah.
So as a former Christian,
I think that's the T-shirt for this.
I spanked him with the Bible last night.
Yes,
He did.
Yeah.
I will buy one in every color.
And I think that might be the sequel to your book too, right? That is chaos magic right there, and
I think that's the sequel to the Autopsy of Jane Doe. Jane Doe 2. I spanked him with the Bible last night.
Love that.
One other thing about the Bible quote, though, they would not have been using the King James Bible. They would have been using the Geneva Bible, which does not say "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live."
Really?
Yes. I deep dive, and if a man or woman have a spirit of divination or soothsaying in them, they shall die the death. They shall stone them to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Because the quote is Leviticus 20:27, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Leviticus 20:27 in the Geneva Bible, which is what they would have been using in Salem at that particular point in time.
That is.
But I'm a nerd. I can't expect other people to even care about such things.
When the kids on the Witch Talk get up in arms about we can't say black magic, we have to say baneful magic, and I'm like, black magic was divination. Like that's what it was back in the day. That was it.
Which is a pretty good form of magic for me. I think so. Yeah. Divination magic.
Yes.
It lets me know when Courtney's going to hex me next. Be prepared.
Always. You barely have to guess 16th. That because it's every day.
Being a big. Do we have any quotes on this film, Miss Courtney?
Sure do. Give me a second here. This is not a very quotable movie, but I did have some. I'm ill prepared. I'm sorry, I was too busy getting excited. Okay, so I really liked in the beginning when the dad said, "Every body has a secret. Some are just better at hiding them than others. He also said, "Leave the why to the cops and shrinks. We're just here to find the cause of death, no more, no less." Which I think, again, speaks to like his character, very traditional, which is, you know, a nice juxtaposition to his son, who is very curious and wants to know things. Now, probably my favorite quote in the whole movie, and there's a reason for this, and I've edited a la Midsummer's Night Dream, is when all the things start happening and the dad goes, "Let's get the puck out of here." Because never in a horror movie does a white man say, "Let's leave." Ever. So I was like, wow, they did something different. Then when they were running around, Dad was getting smashed against the like the mirror in the bathroom because there was someone in the shower. And the son says, "That's what I've been trying to tell you. It's her." And the dad says, "Oh, that's not possible." And the son says, "Her body, those things we found inside, those were impossible. Whatever the hell happened in here, we are way past possible. It's her." And I think that's in the spirit of what we all do. Way past possible. So I like that. And then lastly, "That's why we couldn't find cause of death. She's still alive." Boom. And I loved that. As soon as that happened, I was like, zip me up in the body bag because I am rooted into this movie. So there you go. Those are my quotes.
Thank you very much. Do we have a Mankey movie moment, perhaps?
Oh, I like how you're already ready, Courtney.
Well,
you know,
I know.
Was it
like
inspired
as
by
you
Weekend
said,
at
this
Bernie's?
was not an intensely quotable movie. It was also a hard movie to do a moment for when I thought about it. But so I was going through things the other day, and I actually have a written copy of every Mankey movie minute, or is that Mankey movie moment? Because we use both terms on this show, so I don't know exactly what what we call it. But I can tell you that the document, all the moments or minutes are stored on, is now over 200 pages long.
Oh, wow.
That is a lot of minutes of moments.
That's a
Some
book.
of them are. It is. It's crazy, right? It's like a book. Some of them are good. Some of them are less good. And then when I am less than completely complimentary of a few certain movies, cough, cough, I'm looking at you, Princess Bride, there are probably those of you out there who think my minutes of moments are particularly bad. Personally, I kind of like them better when people rapidly disagree with me and Courtney puts her sunglasses on, which she already has on right now. The minutes, of course, can go in all sorts of different directions. Sometimes they are like movie trailers. And tonight, the autopsy of Jane Doe. Other times, they are more like moments of personal reflection. Often with me wondering, why is the coven, and more specifically, whatever person picked this movie, usually Heather, torturing me so? What did I ever do to them other than love them and send them cards during the holidays? But usually while watching these movies, even the worst of these movies, I kind of figure out what shape the Mankey thing is going to take. While watching the autopsy of Jane Doe, my mind turned as blank as Jane Doe's eyes. Could I riff on how to become a witch, which was my initial thought, and how difficult it is to get the inside of your body tattooed while remaining alive afterwards? I guess that might be kind of funny, but also maybe it's not really funny at all. I certainly didn't want to encourage anyone to take gypsum weed, and while there are people whose tongues I'd like to remove from their bodies, that kind of activity shouldn't be encouraged, right? I mean, at the very least, removing someone's tongue would probably land you in prison. And while it might feel good to do on a certain few politicians, people at particular news outlets, I don't want you, dear viewer, being influenced by my ruminations and ending up in jail. I guess I could make fun of the small cast. Brian Cox has one of the best voices in the world, and he was in that HBO show I didn't watch, which I hear he was pretty good in, but mostly I just hear him going ba 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 ba, which is a commercial jingle for McDonald's that McDonald's has been using for 20 years. Thumper, any chance you've got a few chicken nuggets on you I could have? No? That's right, you're a vegetarian. Sorry about that. Okay, that's fine. But that just gets in my head when I hear those stupid ba 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 things. Ophelia Lovey Bond is third billed in this movie, and she might have 7 minutes of screen time. If you don't like looking at the faces of Brian Cox and Emil Hirsch, then this movie is not going to be for you. Speaking of Ophelia Lovibond, was anyone surprised when her character ended up with an axe through her? I wasn't either. You just knew it was coming. Olwen Kelly stars as Jane Doe. She doesn't say much, but she does know how to twitch a toe. If you've got a toe fetish, the last 30 seconds of this movie is completely for you. Speaking of big twists, took my wife and I 45 minutes to figure out while we were watching this film. I could have sworn Jane Doe was going to turn out to be a member of the Fae, and now, what do you do with her body? Put her in a museum? A special home for people whose bodies still feel pain but really can't do anything else? So many unanswered questions, including, where am I going with this Mankey Movie Minute thing this week? Oh, Patty, you say my time's up? Thank heavens. I'll stop now before one of you pull out one of my teeth, wrap it in a cloth with a Bible verse, and then make me swallow it.
Thank you.
Good job, Jason.
Hey, Jason, so do you want to be a minute or a moment?
I don't know what it's called because it's longer than a minute now because I hog my 2 or 3 minutes, but it used to be super short, and then they just got bigger and bigger.
Oh, that's a moment.
We like them.
That's what he and she said, especially
I think it's
after that bourbon in Austin.
All right.
I wonder when are you going to publish that, because I would read that 200.
I would read that absolutely.
In a sitting.
And also,
Yeah.
I'm not vegetarian, but I appreciate the thought.
You're not.
and
I thought you were vegetarian. No,
I-
that's good
I
to know.
have
You
been,
would
But
yeah.
I will eat McNuggets with you. I will always eat nuggets with you.
I want to eat McNuggets with you guys too.
Nuggets.
Well, we should all meet together and eat McNuggets.
I love nuggets.
Richard Lale, would you eat McNuggets? It is
Just
very
As a former
Franken-foody.
Christian, I'm not sure that he.
As a former Christian, I would rather not eat cardboard.
Okay.
I think it's allowed in the Geneva Bible, though. Maybe
Oh.
not the King James.
Thou
Make
shalt not
me
suffer a
monologue.
nugget to live.
Hey, we are getting some suggestions. You guys in the chat room. Mankey movie monologue, McMinutes, movies by Mankey, movie Millennium. Okay, maybe we should hold a contest.
Yeah.
The Mankey movie
Yeah.
minute moment.
If we pick your name for my segment of the show, you will win a chance to eat chicken McNuggets with me.
Yes. Okay, so
Challenge accepted.
I gotta come up with
Challenge.
some ideas.
The challenge would be, though, but here's the caveat: you can eat nuggets with Jason Menke, but it's only on a Zoom call. So you have to provide your own nuggets
Or transportation. I will Venmo you $6 so you can buy nuggets.
there you go.
Because I will be that appreciative. So, something to think about in the next week or two.
Please have them ready. You could send them in. We have a beautiful page now. It is which is Movie Coven television station on YouTube. Everybody must tune there. I don't know if that's how we should have people submit them there or come back next week with their ideas. But we have a contest now.
Also, they are McNuggets. I could buy some and probably send them to you in the mail, and they would be just fine.
They would be like that corpse, still alive, feeling everything,
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
Yes.
I'm getting brain activity from the chicken nugget.
Yeah.
All right. I guess it is time. Did we like the movie? Did we not? So everybody grab your wand or grab your scalpel or grab your instrument of destruction and cutting open bodies. Voting on.
This has been in a dead body, and now it's voting up for an alive dead body.
Okay. I am straight up. Courtney's straight up. Richard Lale's almost up, and Jason's almost up. So we need to hear from all you guys in the chat room. I personally loved it. I know they got things wrong. I don't care. The whole thing. It was entertained and scared, and it was pretty in a spooky sort of way. So
I just thought it was too gory for me right now.
That's valid.
That's
so valid.
I may have liked it in a different time, but it was too gory for me right now.
That makes sense.
It was very gory, and it was normally gore doesn't bug me. It was bugging me a little bit in this, but I felt like the gore was very artistically done in a way,
Yes.
so that
Agree.
it kind of highlighted the clinical nature of it versus just splattering entrails for the hell of it.
Yep. And I think regardless of everything that I said about how they didn't do it right for Salem, they did do every other thing right to me.
Yeah.
So that all outweighed it, and I love this movie.
Okay. So, all right. We got almost all ones. We got 4 stars. We got I loved it. Let's last 20 minutes a little bit, but we've got mostly ones up or close to up. So, what is our. So go watch it if you didn't watch it. If this has intrigued any of you there, Salem wrong or Salem right. What is our film for next week? I don't.
We switched it. I can't remember.
Producer.
Hello again.
Oh, hello again. Yes.
Hello again.
Hello? Is
Is it me
you're
looking
for?
for?
Yep. All you got to do is
Love you,
watch
sir.
the Lionel Richie video and you'll be ready to go.
Okay. Hello again, everybody. Watch it for next week. We've got a couple of minutes left. Who's got anything coming up that they want to talk? Heather right now is at Mystic South. So anybody going to Mystic South, check out Mystic South. You can see Heather live and nationwide.
She's right there in the chat.
Hi,
Yeah.
right there. You can see her right there in the chat. Did she vote?
She didn't. She didn't. She's probably deep into her wine by this point in the night at Mystic South.
It looked yummy. It did.
This is her like second bottle of Merlot, maybe her third. I say that with love.
Is Hello Again streaming? Melissa asks.
I will look it up right now. Hold on.
Is that Marky Post?
Is Marky posting that?
I don't know. Like, I didn't know who that person was.
I thought it was Shelley Long.
Maybe. Shelley
It is
Long.
Shelley Long. You can rent it on Prime Video, Apple TV, or Fandango.
Okay. Hello again. Next week, everybody watch it. Mystic South, there we are, Heather. So you guys, if you're anywhere near it, watch it. Who's got something else coming up in the next week or two? Or whenever?
I will be at the Free Spirit Gathering outside of Baltimore, Maryland, starting August 5th or 6th. I think it starts on the 5th on that Tuesday. But that's like I have like a whole month off. I still can't believe it.
That is amazing.
Almost a month
Yeah.
off. Coming up too. And Courtney?
I got nothing going. It's summer vacation, guys. I'm just surviving the heat. I'm just surviving. That's all I'm doing.
Thank you. Richard Lale, and doing it very well.
Thank you.
I am really easy to find, thegentlemanpsychic.com. Though it's better to find me on the medias of social because I get overwhelmed and I never answer my email. So I would be a lot richer and I would have a lot more money if I did answer my emails. But I'm telling you, my email answering is deader than the Jane Doe character from tonight. So
She's not dead.
I know. I'm kind of undead. Like I just lie there. And then all of these emails happen to me and I don't answer them. Instead, find me on all of the medias of social. I'm really easy to find. Yeah, I'm everywhere.
Okay.
Oh,
Mystic South
there
in
it is.
Atlanta, 3 days, starts Friday at 9 a.m. Tickets at the door. That's from Heather right there. So see that. Thumper, got anything going on?
Not in the immediate future, but if you want to find me online, you can find me at thumperforge.com, or I am on all the socials at Fivefold Law, especially on TikTok, where I am stirring up controversy and having a lot of fun. But in November, in the second weekend of November, I will be at a bookstore in Cleveland called October's, celebrating the launch of the Chaos Apple. So if you are, I'm from Texas, so I assume Ohio is much, much smaller than where I am. So if you're in Ohio or any of the surrounding states or possibly Lower Canada, come see me.
Perfect.
Also, Thumper is the king of TikTok. Like, if you type in Wicca on TikTok, all you get are Thumper Forge videos. I am not kidding.
Okay.
And they're all great. They're
I
all
have it.
great.
I have a niche. And I have followers, and most of them are neat.
Let's go find TikTok. All right. I am just coming into public with my new face. This is not yet my new face. This is my transition face, but it will see publicly. Besides here, for the first time, I'll be at Comic-Con in San Diego in 2 weeks on a panel called "Witches After Dark." Witches of the East and the West, with Jason Myers, Judy Ann Nock, Star Ravenhawk, and myself. And we're going to be I'm very excited about finally to get to go to Comic-Con. And that's it. And then I have most of August off as well, too. So that is good. So we'll just have to be here. Everybody.
Yeah. And August is my birthday month, so everybody can spend the whole month planning how you're going to be nice to me on my birthday show.
Great. Ouija Sharks 2 through 7.
All right. It is 7 o'clock. We have one more thing. Do we want to sing the song or cackle?
Oh, we'll cackle.
We'll cackle.
No more churches.
I'm not bringing that into my house.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.